Today we're going to talk about people. How do we find them? How do we keep them? And how do we develop them? So I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the recruiting process for volunteer and a career organization. We're going to talk a little bit about selection process, just some briefly about retention and discipline and firing. So when we're talking about recruiting in a career organization, it starts with advertising. We need to take advantage of all the ways we can advertise, just not, post something on a bulletin board somewhere. We need to take advantage of social media, the internet, email our contact list. You never know when somebody might know someone that's interested in the fire service, or maybe they're wanting to make a change in their life. So getting the word out to your network of people is important. Your target market, who are you targeting? There has been a movement lately, and I've been an advocate of this for well over a decade. There is a movement towards lateral hires. So what I'm talking about is hiring someone from another fire department that's already trained and that you can move right in. You won't start them out at the probationary pay. You will start them out at third-year firefighter pay or whatever your system is. That's a common way of doing things now, especially here in the Indianapolis area. I was never really an advocate of hiring some kid off the street and starting them out from scratch with no knowledge, and us spending all this time and effort to train them up and get them to where we wanted them to be, when we can borrow from industry. All the good jobs I had in the private sector, I got recruited from another company and I made a lateral move, so to speak. Generally speaking, it was a promotion in a way, but I moved from company to company based on that. They didn't make me start from the beginning. So know your target market, the position. What position are you hiring for? When you're hiring for a paramedic position, that's a little bit of different. There's going to be a difference in the way you recruit that. Volunteer. We need to constantly be recruiting. We don't do enough of this in the volunteer world. I know, I've been there. I've found that one of the best ways is to start them out younger. The younger you start them out, the better off you're going to be. So as they come out of high school, you need to have some kind of regular plan to recruit those, whether you can get into high schools and do some kind of career day or whatever it is. The younger you get them, the better off you're going to be. Now, when we're recruiting adults, you need to have a way of inviting them. People aren't just going to show up at your door, knock on the door of the firehouse and say, I want to join. That's not how it works. I think a lot of fire departments, I've been on some fire departments that thought that's how it should work. If they don't want to be a part of us, we're not going to go out and, we're not going to go out and court them or try to talk them into it. That's not going to work, especially today in the culture that we live in. So you need to recruit the adults as well. And there's many ways to do that. So the selection process in the volunteer world, there's going to be a level of commitment that you want to see from people. So you need to make them jump through a few hoops. Obviously, it doesn't matter whether it's career or volunteer. We're going to do a background check and those type of things. We're going to have some kind of mental evaluation of some kind, aptitude test, maybe physical agility test, those kind of things. And one of the things that I caution people about is trying to make this thing objective and quantify everything. I've seen that in the fire service for a lot of years, where we try to have a scoring system and we follow that scoring system no matter what it says. Well, I can tell you this, that there's too many intangibles for that to truly work that way. I think what it should be is there should be kind of a pass-fail thing. So if they pass the physical agility, they pass the aptitude test, then they're eligible to be considered for hiring. And then that's where we try to evaluate the intangibles through the interview process and other things. The best way to put it is this. Some of the best employees I've had barely passed the physical agility or barely passed the aptitude test. And then I've also had employees that I had to fire that aced both tests, but yet they were a poor employee. So it's impossible to quantify everything and make it truly objective. There's going to be some subjectivity to it. We want to control that. We want to be smart about it. But at the end of the day, we're looking for the best people. Retention. It all goes back to culture, and I know that some of my presentations here have been about culture, and I get hardly anybody to watch those, but I'm telling you that culture is a big deal, and culture just doesn't happen on its own. I always relate this back to my DJ days. So I was a DJ, and you would get a crowd of people who they weren't going to dance. They just weren't. And there's nothing as a DJ you can do to make them that way. So when I say that, that's what I mean about a fire department. I can't improve the culture or make the group better if I've hired a bunch of poor individuals. If I've got a set of good individuals now, let's look on the other side of it. So I'm a DJ and I go to a room and these people want to dance. They're a fun-loving group. A bad DJ can ruin the place, and it can ruin the event. Same thing with the fire department. You can have the best people in the world, but if the leadership stinks, you can ruin it. So you've got to build a good culture. That's the best way to retain people. Make the environment so good that people don't want to leave. Part of that is the compensation. However, I can tell you from experience, it doesn't matter what the salary is. Sometimes it's a crappy place to work. So there's a lot to do with compensation. Don't forget some of these things. PTO is a big deal for people. The pension program, what's your pension base? Are you in the pension program? Do you have a 401k? How can you make that more attractive? Is there career advancement? Is there a clear path in your organization for people to advance and improve themselves? Do you provide education, those kind of things? The schedule. One of the things that, when I said, if you're recruiting a paramedic, so we got a paramedic position and you want to recruit a paramedic, a lot of paramedics are working in situations where their schedule is a 12-hour schedule. Well, if you're a fire department officer, 24/48 schedule, in a lot of cases, that's a much preferable. A lot of people will prefer that schedule over a 12-hour shift schedule. So that's another advantage that you have. Insurance, those kind of things. Hometown's a big deal. I can't tell you how many times, there's been people I've hired. They were great in the interview. They're great people. Loved to have them, but I knew, they were pretty far away from home. They were taking the first job they could get, and I knew they were going to go back to their hometown, and they did. So that's a big deal for people, and that's a big part of the retention. So if you can make people feel like this is their home, that'll help you retain people. And then the challenge. One of the things that I found, there's a neighboring department that was pretty slow. Pay was okay, but there wasn't a lot of challenge to it. And we were able to recruit some people from that organization to ours because we offered a challenge. We offered a wide, we were busy. We had things going on. So that's something that you may not have complete control over, but there are things you can do to make your environment more challenging and more rewarding. Discipline. I'll probably do a whole class on this at some point, but it's got to be consistent. You've got to communicate the expectations. You've got to document things. I don't care how small they are. If you just have a meeting to say, hey, don't do that again, you need to document that meeting, because on down the line, you don't know when those small things are going to add up to a point where you can't keep the person around. I've had to discipline some close friends of mine. I've had to discipline some great people. And like I always say, I really didn't do it to them. They did it to themselves. Performance management. We were at one of the organizations I was with, we had implemented a program where there was constant feedback. There was a system, there's a computer, a software program that we used to give people constant feedback on what they were doing. We gave them, good marks for when they did things the right way, and negative marks when they did things the wrong way, but they had constant feedback. And so that's what I'm talking about with performance management. And then respect. If they have enough respect for you, they will discipline themselves. And you've got to have respect for everybody else in the organization to discipline those who are not following the rules. So when we talk about firing, nobody wants to fire anybody. I've had to fire a few people because their performance just didn't meet the expectations. You've got to document everything. You've got to have progressive discipline. It's something that's got to be managed, and you've got to stay on top of it. So if we step back to the discipline side of it, if you're following that process and you're documenting things, the firing process will be made simpler for you. It's never going to be easy. Telling someone they don't have a job anymore is never easy. One of the things you have to realize, one of the things that I see a lot of people do is they can't admit they were wrong. They hired the wrong person, and they tend to hang on to that person thinking that they can change them too long, and it creates more turmoil through the organization. It causes problems that are unnecessary. So you need to, at some point, you need to cut your losses, admit you made a mistake, and move on. The other thing that I want to say that I can't say enough is it's not personal. I had someone that I considered a friend that I had to fire, but they did not meet the expectations, and they repeatedly violated rules. We had to get rid of them. It wasn't personal. I still like them. They just couldn't be an employee for us anymore. Second chances, I believe in it, but I don't believe in 3 or 4 or that. If once you tell somebody that they did something wrong, and you discipline them, you can give them another chance. But if you keep giving them another chance, you're going to lose respect, and it's going to cause problems throughout the organization. And the other thing I found is there's some individuals that have they're worried about upsetting the rest of the employees when they fire somebody. And I can tell you from experience, I've had that feeling myself. But once that person was gone from the organization, it was amazing how many people came out of the woodwork to speak up and say, hey, I was tired of them too. I didn't think they belonged here, that kind of thing. So you're going to find that if you're doing things the right way, your current employees are going to respect you, and they're going to agree with you. The take-home message is this. We need to get better at selecting our people. We need to get better at keeping our people, and we need to get better at developing our people. If you want to know more, you can call me or text me or email me. Again, I represent RT Insurance. We provide public safety insurance all over the state of Indiana and Illinois. If you have any questions about insurance at all, give me a call as well. Thanks.